Good morning, everybody. This is Be Efficient Life's winter weather preparation. Now the season is changing. It's fall, it's starting to get cold, so I'm going over some Be Efficient tips on how to be more efficient with the weather coming. So here's one: preventing basement cracks and leaks. Most people don't or may not be aware of the fact that most of the cracks or leakage in your basement starts from outside. So if you have things like in the left-hand corner at the top, you'll see the gutters. This particular gutter goes into the ground and it lets out in the back of the house. But these gutters, you have to make sure that there's no weeds growing in the end of the pipe. At this point, if you have the gutters that go down and then have an empty where this line is, then that drain will need to drain away from the house. Most people have some kind of pan that leads, or even a extension pipe that leads away from the house. That is essential because that water leaking down to the ground freezes and expands and freezes, and it contracts and expands and gets in the cracks, and it starts those cracks that end up in your basement, end up water leaking in your basement, compromise the structure of your house. It makes for expensive amount of damage, and it makes for bugs being able to get into your house, as well as that flooding and mold developing. So it is very important to make sure that all of the water is running away from your house, especially from the drains. So check all your drains regularly, make sure the pans are in place, and make sure the pans lead the water away from your house. You'll see under that, you'll see the slope from the lawn. So this slope, you'll see the two pictures beneath me where the water is running from the house, from the siding, all the way down to the bottom part of the ground and the pavement, because the dirt next to the house, and you'll see in the next picture where the dirt is built up next to that window well cover, um, where it is built up so that it is higher at the level of the house, so that it drains forward and drains down. There's a slight dip right there. So then that dip coincides with the dip in the lawn where the water can continue to go. And that's not by accident. I actually regraded and dug up the entire lawn and regraded and put that dirt closer to the house and made the slope so that the water could run fast and efficiently away from the property, so as to not create those cracks in the foundation. You also see here, the last picture has the window well cover. I made this particular one. You can buy them from the store if you can find one to fit. But I wasn't sure whether or not the problems in my basement were being caused by this French drain. Some of them are regular drains, some of them are French drains, where there's a drain inside that drains water away from the property. Like I said, in my location, this drains out at the back of the property, and you just have to make sure that the line is clear. Also, if you don't have a cover on here, you have to make sure that it's not filled with leaves or anything. So that needs to be cleaned out. While we're here, I didn't put this in this slide, but you'll see that there is a water hose connection right there. Most people have shut-off valves on the inside of the house, and in order to stop any water leaking inside your house or any freezing of your pipes, it is wise to, when the season stops and you're not going to be using that hose anymore, at least regularly, to turn off the inside shut off and then open the outside so that all the water drains out from this end to the inside where it starts. So there's no connection between the water inside of your house and the water outside of your house. And that also means unhooking all of your water hoses and things like that, but at the very least draining them out so that there's no water in the line connecting water from the inside and the outside, so you don't have to worry about pipes freezing, any connections being worn or um, depressurized from the freezing of water in that pipe. So this is for ceiling patios and stairs. So here you'll see that alongside the house, sometimes patios or stairs can break away a little bit, allowing water to seep in those areas between the house and those patios. And you don't want water to seep down there because it's the same problem as having the drain link down there. So this is, you'll see a little hydraulic cement. Sometimes you can mix it with epoxy and or polyethylene to make it a little more gummy for areas like this. And you can seal off those areas so that you don't have the potential for leaking or water, especially if you can't make sure that the area is the right slope to prevent water from settling in those areas. So next we have sealing and insulation of windows. You'll see in this case some extra caulking has been added to these windows to prevent, they're very old windows, so their caulking is added to make it so that the air doesn't seep through as easily. Also on the inside you'll see this bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is very easy to use. These are the bigger bubbles. You can just spray of water onto the window, and then after you cut the bubble wrap the same size as the window, you just stick it there. It will stay. It doesn't usually come off. If it does, you just spray a little more water on there and put it back. So it's easy to do. It doesn't take any other materials other than the bubble wrap and just some scissors to cut them out in some water. It's a very easy and effective insulator for especially old windows. Then sealing and insulating siding. So in this case, you'll see up underneath the siding, there's been a spray of spray foam. You can get this from your hardware store and you literally just spray it up under there. Now, it may look cumbersome because I don't know if you know about spray foam, but it expands quite a bit much. So you might have to then take maybe some kind of knife or blade of some sort and then just cut the bottom part of it that seeps below so that you don't have this ugly looking mass of foam hanging out from underneath your siding. So you see in this case, I've sprayed the foam up there. I've let it expand. This is kind of old, so it's shrinking back. Every so often, a couple years, you might have to redo it because the foam will shrink away. Foam is also sensitive to light, so you really can't put it any place where light is going to shine on it unless you cover it. You'll also see the connection between the electric cords that go into your main box from the outside. A lot of times there's a lot of draft from this area. They put this gummy around it, but it doesn't stop that air from coming past the siding. So what I did is I went into the inside of the house and then I caulked maybe 2.5 things of caulk into that hole to insulate it. You can also use bubble wrap or some other kind of insulator, but you have to be careful that it is something that will not interfere with the electric current. Is why they're using this gummy stuff here. So just check to make sure whatever you're using is a safe material to put near an electrical cable, and that your electrical cables are completely closed so that it's not even being affected by whatever you're putting on there. And then you can seal up that area. Now, again, later on, I'm going to show you how to detect whether or not you do have anything, any air seeping out of this particular area um, using an instant. And we'll see that shortly. Okay, here you have ceiling structural cracks. This is a crack going through the side of the window, and it will be more extensively covered in my video about sealing your basement from water leakage. But this particular crack is sealed from the inside and the outside using something called a radon seal kit. But you still need to cover it over with some kind of either, I usually dry lock paint or some sort of covering. You might put on some hydraulic cement underneath of it just to make sure the crack is properly sealed. So after I did this, I had some years where some cave crickets were just sitting on the crack because they may have usually inhabited it after winter, or during winter, and it was apparent that they could no longer get into that space. So both for the water sealing and for the insect sealing, you'll want to make sure that those cracks are covered. They'll only get wider if water gets into them because the water expands and contracts with the weather, freezing and melting, and that will make the crack bigger and also make room for creatures to live and getting access to your house. So next is safety and prep for trimming. So here we're talking about trimming away trees, bushes, and vines away from your house because trees growing too close to your house can end up being um, roots growing into your water lines. It can be cracking the structure of your basement or foundation. So it's important to trim them so that the roots are not growing too strong and toward your house. So you want to keep something that could be a tree, a bush, if it's closer to your house. You don't want it growing to be a grand tree and too close to your house because that is destructive to your house. So here are some safety preps for trimming. It has you through on the left hand side, you'll see three forms of gloves. Okay, so one is the regular plastic gloves just to protect your hands from mold or anything, and maybe old gloves or whatever. The next are gardening gloves. Gardening gloves are good for pulling if you need to pull out some weeds. And it's best to do after rain when the ground is soft. They're easier to pull off. And then you have these leather gloves. These are for your rose bushes or your wild raspberry, anything that has thorns in it. Um, on the right, you'll see some tools that I use for when I'm trimming. I use a straight shovel for both scraping the vines off of the wall and removing those things, or any digging, or sometimes even chopping off some vines from hard to reach areas. Then I have some pulling devices, my small saw, the pruning shears, and then there's this L-shaped kind of blade, which kind of helps you sometimes grab things that are too far away or things that may be thorny that you may need to get closer to you. And that's what any little digging I might use, the little digger claw for. So those are some supplies you might want to use. So here is identifying prickly plants because roses are not the only prickly plants you find. These right here kind of almost looks like a three-leaf poison ivy or poison oak, but it really is a wild raspberry. And you can see by the red thorns that are sticking out of the main branches that it is in fact wild raspberry, and you want to use those leather gloves for the wild raspberry. So here is the wall you see at the top where the vines are stuck to the wall. I use a straight shovel to scrape that off. And then you'll see all of these vines that have grown all over what is my Rose of Sharon bushes. So also you'll see some maple trees trying to grow, um, or some mulberry trees trying to grow, and some trash trees also trying to grow in this brush. And like I said, you don't want these growing too far to your house, so you want to go ahead and you can cut them off and treat them. There are some chemicals you may want to look up that you can treat the stem so that they don't grow back. But basically, I'm using those tools to scrape and then pull off all of these vines to clear this area connected to my house. And this is a hill. I have to get over a wall. You'll see the wall there to get to this area, but it definitely is worth it to those vines will even grow under your siding and grow into your house, creating space for bugs and things to follow as well. Okay, now here is how you identify drafts. You'll see on the bigger circle, you'll see the incense and you'll see the smoke just going straight up as any incense should, but you see as closer I get to the door, which I kind of left a little crack for this demonstration, you'll see that the air is blowing the smoke away from the door. So you can definitely see that there is a draft there. And this is how you would identify drafts, like I said, from that electrical conduit. You would also identify drafts like that from any doors or windows. So here are some to fixing common draft problems, and this is dealing with the door that we just saw. You'll see there is usually this insulation liner that goes around your door. Sometimes, especially at the bottom, you can see little gaps. These little pads you can buy from any hardware store. They will help with extending the liner to where it needs to be to seal the gap in the corner. Also on the bottom of the door, over wear and tear from either hitting rugs or just opening, closing, this little strip at the bottom of your door will then become ravaged like this. You'll want to get this off and you'll want to put a replacement one on. You can just get the ones that slide onto the bottom of your door and put a new one on. Otherwise, you will have a gap. And the way to find these types of problems is when you shut your door and it's daytime and you look at your door, can you see light shining through? If you see light shining through, 9 times out of 10 is one of these problems. Sometimes you'll have to replace this entire insulating strip around your door because you like the whole door is not seated right. On occasion, you might actually have to have a professional come in and actually replace the frame of your door because it's no longer fitting your door. So in conclusion, preventative measures can save you thousands of dollars in the long run. Owning a home does not have to be a wormhole of expenses. Taking small tasks to keep your dwelling in shape can keep your investment from becoming a liability. So you really want to keep the value in your home as efficient as not having to pay rent. You don't want to supplement that expense with a bunch of repairs or a bunch of expenses like high gas and electric bills from these leaks and things. So just be mindful that it is definitely worth taking some of these measures. It will save you in the long run. It'll save you damage. It'll save you money. Now, also, I would say with the plumbing to go around, make sure you don't have any leaks. Listen for any drips. Those things can become big problems. So just be mindful that if you do regular surveys and repairs of your home before they become big problems, then you will definitely save the money in the long run. So, terms of use, all rights reserved. Be Efficient is a trademark of Be Efficient Life LLC, used by permission. All other third-party trademarks are property of their respective owners. By continuing, you agree to not modify, copy, distribute, transmit, display, license, create derivative works from, transfer, or sell any information, software, product, or service obtained from the site in any manner not allowed herein. See terms of use at www.beefficientlife.com or at Be Efficient Life Planning, myshopify.com. Thank you and enjoy your micromanaging.